Welcome back, everybody. Today we're going to be inside the camper looking at adding some things to the sink area. We're going to be adding a dish dispenser. This was on Amazon, about 20 bucks. And a water purification faucet as well to it to kind of clean up the counter area. Just so we don't have extra things on there. We don't have to carry cases of water or add extra filters outside. That'll keep our water pressure up and allow us to get fresh drinking water, filtered 3-stage, right from the sink area. My wife likes a clean countertop, so we're gonna make her happy and we're gonna add that stuff today. So let's get started and look at what tools we'll need, and then we'll get down to the measurements. All right, so pretty easy install today. You're not gonna need too many tools. First thing I'll say is get a board, just an old piece of board you have somewhere laying around. Test fit with your hole saw the hole that you're gonna cut out before you make any cuts into your countertop. You don't want to screw that up and have a hole bigger than you need. The two things that we're installing today have recommended different size diameters for the holes, but what I found is 1.25" hole saw worked for both. So I used this for that. So you're going to want one of those. You'll need some kind of marker that you can trace the lines out. I've already done one we'll look at, and then we'll do the other one together. So I have just a thin blue marker for that. We may need some painter's tape to tape off around it, just so we don't get any chipping around where we're going to cut in the hole saw. A straight edge for our lines to measure out exactly where we want these. I'm doing 2. If you're only doing 1, you know, it doesn't really make as much of a difference. It's not as much of a big deal if you're just doing 1, but I want them to be even on both sides. So I'm going to use a straight edge to figure that out. We'll need some silicone, 100% waterproof, just to go around our gaskets. You don't necessarily need it, but I like to be a little safer in the RV, especially because I just don't want water dripping anywhere else. So we'll put those around the gaskets. Some gloves for using the silicone, a rag to wipe up the excess when we go around it. And then these are the 2 units I'm installing. They're both from WeWe. Both on Amazon. This is the soap dispenser. It's about 20 bucks. I'll link it in the description. The other one is also WeWe. This is our water filtration, and I'm going to hook it up to an Aquasana 3-stage filter. The reason I'm doing that is a little cheaper to get it inside. I've also heard some things about the water pressure being negatively affected by adding a 3-stage filter on the outside, and I don't really want that for like the shower. And for the actual faucet. So we're going to install it just directly to this unit. Now the Aquasana does come with one, depending on which one you buy. We got ours at an auction, so it wasn't 300 bucks, it was 26 bucks. That's why we're installing the Aquasana as opposed to a 3-stage filter outside, one of the big reasons. Ours came with a silver one. Obviously we want to match what's in the Brinkley here. So I picked this one up. This is, I think, 30 bucks on Amazon. Again, I'll link it in the description. But both are going to be really easy installs. The scariest part on this one is going to be cutting into your countertop. So let's get started. All right, so the way I'm doing this is I'm measuring from where the faucet is. So the first measurement I took was from the faucet to the edge of the sink, which was right inside 1.5 inches. And so that's how I decided I want both the soap dispenser and the water filter faucet to sit. Now it's a little more complicated because, for example, the soap dispenser here, the cap that kind of covers it is part of it, and with the threaded piece you can't kind of see where it sits, right? But I can use the gasket to kind of measure that out, and this is the lines that I've already done over here. It may be a little difficult to see on the video, but I'm just going to walk you through how I got those measurements. So I decided I wanted to go 1.5 inches up, like I mentioned, so we're just going to measure it like here, and then I took my marker and just marked a line there, and then I used it this way to kind of mark the line across to the edge of the sink here. Now I also decided that it looked best sitting about 2.5 inches inside the lip here. So what I did is used this straight edge on the edge of the sink where the counter meets to draw my line here, and then I measured 2.5 inches inside. Now the easiest way to do this, once you get this 1.5 inch line, is to take the gasket, set it on that 1.5 inch line, and then use your straight edge and measure out 2.5 inches from your edge line, and then sit your gasket right where you want it. Once you got that, you can leave your gasket there, hold it down, and just circle inside of it like this, and that'll give you where you're going to drill your hole saw mark. And now we're going to do it on the other side for the water filtration system, and I'll do that line by line with you so you can kind of see how it's going. Alright, so the first thing we want to do is get our frame of reference here for the side where the sink and countertop meet. So you can see I've got my straight edge running along there, and I've got it running along the top there. I've got about 3.5 inches, which should give me plenty of space here. So the first thing I'm going to do is mark that line and make sure it runs along the edge. That gives me my frame of reference to go 2.5 inches in. And then I want to go 1.5 inches up because we measured from this, and I want it to be similar. For the water filtration, they give you a nice little gasket which has the seal on it, so you can actually see where it goes. So what I'm going to do is go 1.5 inches up, at least 2.5 inches over, because I know that's where I want the center to be. So I'll probably do 3 or 3.5 inches, make a couple lines so I can make it nice and square. So it's right inside 1.5 inches. So we'll measure that out. We'll put a little line in there. And we'll do that again. And that should be enough for me. And then we're going to measure like this, just across both those lines there. And go straight across. And then I know I want to be 2.5 inches from that line. So I'll get right up against that line. And here's 2.5 inches, and I'm just going to put a mark straight up and down so I know that's my center there. And then we're good to go. Now the center is where I'm going to drill this hole out. Again, I have 1.5 inches bit that I'm going to, or sorry, 1.25 inches that I'm going to use here. But this is my point of reference, so I want it to be right in the center. So what I've done is put the center of the ring on my mark here. And it just has to be a rough estimate. To the naked eye, you're not going to be able to tell if it's 1 millimeter or 2 off. And then I'm just going to circle the inside of this one here. And there, that gives me my reference point to where I can start drilling. So this one will look like this. And then on this side, we'll have it similar like that. I think now we're ready to drill. So this is going to be the scariest part for any of you. It won't be too nerve-wracking, especially if you get a new bit. Like I said, it's a 1.25 inches hole saw that I'm using here. You can see it right there. So this should be pretty straightforward. One thing I should have mentioned at the beginning of the video was to check under your sink. If you're not using a Brinkley, this is a Brinkley 3110, but if you're not using a Brinkley, measure under your sink and make sure that where you're drilling the holes, there is space between the sink and a wall or any tubing or piping or anything like that. In my case, I had already checked that. There are, in the Brinkley, some small pieces of wood bracing under there, so I measured so that it would hit that, just to give me a little more added security to where I was mounting. So you can see it took out not only the countertop but the piece of the wood that I needed to drill through. Just keep that in mind. Look under there, make sure you have the space. Make sure you have the space to get your fingers under there to twist anything back on, right? So something to keep in mind before you start drilling holes. Alright, for this step I've added my painter's tape just to provide a little extra protection against some chipping. Like I said, this is the scariest part, drilling into your kitchen countertop here on your fifth wheel. So I've lined this up as best I can, right into the middle of that circle. And now we're just going to drill into it. Now if you go backwards, it'll help you get a cleaner cut. I'm going to start it going forwards, but then I'll run it back to prevent some chipping. Alright, there we go. First hole is done. Let's get this cleaned up and we'll put the soap dispenser in. We're ready to install our soap dispenser. Here's what else comes in the kit. You're going to get 2 gaskets, one for either side, underneath and on top. Here's the ring that threads on underneath to kind of hold it in place. And then the bottle itself screws in below that. So that's the nice part, is once this is screwed in like this, all you have to do is pop the top off here, and then you can add your soap directly from the top. You don't need to go underneath and do that, which is convenient. This side also comes with a straw. The angled end goes underneath so it can continue to suck the soap up. You just want to make sure you install that before you put it back in there, and you're ready to go. Alright, top down look at the hole. Take 1 gasket and we're going to add it to our top of our soap dispenser. We'll end up putting some silicone around this once we're done. But for now we're just going to slide this in. Then we're going to crawl underneath and we're going to add the other gasket to the ring, and then we'll thread that on, and that'll be ready for soap. If you're a big guy like me, this part can be a struggle. You got to get up kind of behind here. The cabinet doors don't open all the way, and if you've got a snug fit between the sink and the wall, it can be a struggle to kind of squeeze in there, but I've got the angles. Let's see if we can get this up there and get it screwed on. So if you don't have a second set of hands, a good way to do this is to put the nut up there and then thread the bottle through. Then you can use the bottle to pull the base down and get your nut to thread on there. There we go. Get that thing nice and snug. That way it's watertight. Get your bottle on there and you're done. So again, from the top, we can see it's nice and snug here. Sorry, I'm shaking the camera a little bit, but I've already got my glove on. I've got my silicone. So we're just going to put a nice little small bead around it. I'll use my finger to kind of smooth that out, and then use the shop towel to kind of get the rest of the edge off. You don't want to go too thick here. You're just going to end up wiping most of it off if you do it that way. So angle it down. Excess off with our cloth and with our finger. Actually, let's just use the cloth and see how that works. Should work pretty well on this surface here. Okay, now all we gotta do is drop our tube and our dispenser in there. Push that back on. Voila, you're good to go. Alright, now we'll move on to the water filtration system. We'll install the head today, and then in part 2 we'll install the actual filtration system underneath. Alright, hole number 2 for the water filtration system. The faucet, the wee faucet, comes with the actual unit. Comes with the cover. This will go on top, the screw to tighten it down underneath, and a gasket for underneath. This one already has the rubber on it. So same rules apply to the other side. I put the tape around it just to help with chipping. The bit will chew through a little bit of that, but it should help protect it. gasket on, for our cap. Our gasket goes underneath with the nut. Now, again, this is easier said than done with one person. If you can get another person to kind of hold this in place, it'll go a long way. But it's just me today, so we'll do the best we can to get it tightened up and ready to go so that we can add the water filter in part 2. Alright folks, here's our finished product. As you can see, pretty even. Pretty smooth looking from the top. And they match pretty well, the colors. I mean, they're slightly off, but with the lighting, you can't really tell. So we'll be back with part 2, adding the 3-stage Aquasana filter to the water filtration system.